Shiny hunting is one of the biggest subcultures of all Pokemon games, and there is one feature that shiny hunters hate more than the rest: shiny locking. This is the act of making a Pokemon unable to be shiny. This has its practical uses, but it's also very problematic for the shiny hunting community. And in this video, we're going to be talking about the feature itself, starting off with why they do this. As I said before, there are some practical reasons for this, such as uncatchable Pokemon. In the start of Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, when you pick your starter, you're forced into a battle with a Poochyena. And with this shiny lock, this Poochyena can't be shiny. But with the original games Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, the Poochyena could be shiny, and you would have an uncatchable shiny. This makes shiny hunting the starters in these games have a level of risk with them. No one wants to lose a shiny that they were forced to encounter. So implementing the shiny lock on these Pokemon fixes this risk. Another way they implement this is a very useless reason. They'll shiny lock new legendaries and then give them away as a mystery gift. This upsets a lot of people who would like to hunt for their shinies rather than getting them from an event. I think it's good to give shinies to people who don't have the patience or who don't want to shiny hunt, but you shouldn't ruin it for the people who do want to hunt these shinies themselves. Lastly, they tend to shiny lock story encounters such as Reshiram and Zekrom in End's Castle or Rayquaza and Deoxys in the Delta episode. While being more understandable, this is still annoying. Now that we've gone through why they do this, let's go through the problems of doing this. A major issue with this is locking new and exciting shinies behind a wall. You may like shiny Chi-Yu or shiny Koraidon, but they are just completely unavailable right now. When shiny Zygarde was released, it was a stunning shiny, and people raced through X and Y to get it. And some people even did thousands of resets before finding out it was shiny locked. It took 7 years for a huntable shiny Zygarde to be in the game. It wasn't until the Crown Tundra DLC for Sword and Shield that Pokemon from Gen 6 and Gen 7 got their shinies released, excluding Xerneas and Yveltal from the Ultra Wormholes. For people who play the games to get a shiny dex, it also makes it physically impossible for them to complete their dex. Of course they could just remove the shiny locking in the code, but then people would come at them for cheating. It just makes a big hurdle for shiny hunters to get these shinies. Shiny hunting really thrived in Gen 4 and it helped them build up a community with all these shiny legendary hunts that are super cool. But then immediately in Gen 5, this was ruined by shiny locked legendaries. For people who love to do soft reset hunts, it really just took them away from the game and made them not want to play. This caused a massive divide in the community and really just ruined what they had. Now that we've gone over some issues with it, we can go over what Pokemon exactly were shiny locked. Traditional shiny locking started in Generation 5, and there are 5 Pokemon that had this status. First of all is Victini. If you were lucky enough to get the Liberty Pass, you could go to Liberty Island and encounter a Victini. While being a well-loved shiny, this Victini could not be shiny. It still hasn't been huntable since. Next, we have the 2 box legendaries, Reshiram and Zekrom. In the original Black and White, these were caught during a storyline battle, so they ended up being shiny locked in these games. But in every other game they've been made available, they are able to be shiny hunted, with the exception of the Scarlet and Violet DLC. Next, we have the Gen 6 games, X and Y, and Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. The box legendaries for X and Y, Xerneas and Yveltal, were shiny locked due to being in the storyline. They have since been able to be hunted in Gen 7 and Gen 8. As mentioned before, the third legendary for these games, Zygarde, was shiny locked. His shiny was finally released in the Crown Tundra DLC for Sword and Shield. For Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, we first have the uncatchable Poochyena. This is shiny locked because you can't catch it. Another static encounter that you can't shiny hunt in this game are the cosplay Pikachus. This is most likely to do with them being in the story. Next, we have the legendaries Kyogre, Groudon, and Rayquaza. These were major story points, so they were shiny locked. They have been able to be shiny hunted in previous and future generations though. Lastly for these games, we have the Deoxys encounter in the Delta episode. This, similarly to the other ones, was a story encounter. Deoxys was able to be shiny hunted in Gen 3 if he had the story ticket. Gen 7 went completely overboard with the shiny locking, with every Ultra Beast except for Blacephalon and Sakataka, every legendary and every mythical being shiny locked. Thankfully, in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, they removed the shiny lock on all of the Ultra Beasts. You were able to get shiny Solgaleo and Lunala in Gen 8. Next, in Gen 8, they shiny locked all of the starters. You could get these later from breeding, but the initial starter you get could not be shiny. The other Pokemon they shiny locked in these games were the legendaries. Zacian, Zamazenta, and Eternatus were all big story encounters, so they were shiny locked. In the DLCs of these games, they shiny locked Kubfu, Urshifu, the 3 Galarian birds, Calyrex, Glacier, and Spectrier. None of these Pokemon have come back to be shiny huntable yet. In Legends Arceus, your initial starter was shiny locked, and every single legendary and mythical encounter were shiny locked. Lastly, we get to Gen 9 where nearly everything is shiny locked. Your starters, the Titans, the legendaries, the 7-star raids, and Blood Moon Ursaluna are all shiny locked in these games. That is all the shiny locked Pokemon through every generation. If you enjoyed, leave a like and subscribe for more Pokemon videos.